Hi, everyone. Welcome along again to the Digital Culture Ideas Show and Podcast. So this is the show that helps you under the biggest changes we're undergoing at the moment, which is the shift to a more digital business and life. So it's all about how technology and the internet are massively changing the way we behave, think, interact, and communicate. So today I am speaking with Aaron Olphert, the Chief Digital Officer of the Kordia Group. So Aaron, how are you? And what's happening at the moment?
Hello, everyone. No, doing fantastic. Lots going on. Industry is charging ahead. And today we announced a new acquisition of Base2, who's a modern workplace specialist. So we're really happy to have them join the Kordia family.
Absolutely, that's so cool. So literally today is the first day we've brought them on board. So that is super exciting. Can't wait to meet them all and get involved with them. So Aaron, so maybe if just for the audience's benefit, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself just to provide some context. So what is a little bit about you and your background?
So me, Hilary, I was brought up in West Auckland and then migrated down to the deep south of Invercargill. So that's where I spent my schooling years and basically started working when I was about 13 at Mitre 10 in retail. So started very early and continued working most weekends, and I suppose built up a pretty good work ethic through that process. And then when I left school, originally I wanted to be a fighter pilot in the Air Force. Of course, everyone watched Top Gun during the 80s and wanted to be a fighter pilot. And unfortunately learned at quite a young late stage that due to me having asthma, that wasn't going to happen. So went off to the career guidance counsellor, and he kind of said, well, what else do you like doing? I said, I kind of like building things, pulling electronics apart, trying to put them together. Again, sometimes not quite successful, playing with computers. And he suggested I go and do a electronics engineering degree. So went and spent 2 years at Otago Polytech and got a National Certificate of Engineering in electronics and computers, and started with Kordia way back in, I think it was December 1993. So I've done about 27
first job
years.
after your study. Yeah,
first job after study. So basically Mitre 10 study, and then into Kordia, or its predecessor, broadcast communications back in the day, and been there ever since. But obviously it's significantly evolved since then. I started as a apprentice electronics technician and effectively moved up through the company and also moved up through the country. So worked in Invercargill, Christchurch, and eventually moved back north to Auckland, where I've been based for the last 20 years.
Wow. So literally kind of grew up with the company. So just wondering, how do you think that has kind of changed your perspective in terms of, essentially coming up through the ranks? Does that mean you have a different perspective from someone joining, later on in their career?
Yeah, I think it just comes back to experience. So, the great thing is when you get new people join the company, they've got new ideas, new ways of working, which you always want to embrace. But also the people that have been with the company for a while have a kind of a lot of experience and in-depth knowledge that can help people around why decisions have been made as they were in the past, or how technology's kind of evolved or been kind of patched together to form solutions. And I think also because I've worked in a number of different areas, I've got affinity with the people who are out in our field teams and climb towers, because as part of my job, I used to have to climb our broadcast towers. So some of them are over 120 metres high. So I definitely don't have a fear of heights and enjoyed working outside in those times. So, I've been out with the field staff. So I love and respect what they do on a daily basis. I've worked in pre-sales. I've worked in product management, and now I'm in a commercial kind of technical executive role. And so, I've got a pretty broad understanding of the end-to-end parts of the business and how it all fits together and how we need to work together to achieve common outcomes for our customers.
Absolutely. Actually, I'd like to touch on your current role, so Chief Digital Officer. that can mean a lot of different things in different companies. But to you, what are the sorts of things that like a CDO does? Like, what's their kind of role compared to other execs on the team?
Yeah, so as you say, the CDO or Chief Digital Officer can mean a lot of different things depending on the company you're in. And no, I'm not responsible for digital marketing and websites, as some of the email spam that comes to me might suggest. Effectively, my job's to lead the technology strategy within the company, and that involves leading teams of IP engineers, software developers, some of the technical elements of our recent acquisitions, our managed cybersecurity team, obviously yourself, Hilary,
Yes.
and our product management or go-to-market side of the business, and kind of pull that together into a cohesive kind of delivery arm. And so effectively, my team is responsible for ideation, creation of designs, architecture, and then of course execution. And at the end of the day, I'm only successful in how I deliver things if I've got a strong team behind me. And the measure of success ultimately is that you're delivering for your customers and you're delivering for your employees.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, if we could perhaps have a bit of a chat about your leadership style now. So, how would you describe your leadership style, and when did you figure it out for yourself? Because you have gone through various like technical roles and then technical leadership roles and then into the role you're in today. So yeah, how would you describe it?
I think I'd describe it as kind of being natural. And so I've never tried to be something I'm not. I'm a bit of a bogan from Southland, and love playing with tech and things like that. And I think you've got to be to bring people along on a journey. They've got to see that you're willing to jump in the trenches and do things yourself. You've been there yourself. You understand or have experienced what they're experiencing at any particular time, and that you're authentic. I can be a bit blunt sometimes, but I think it's more about being just black and white. So there's a difference between, I suppose, how you deal with people in a way where you're trying to put people down or not help them, versus just being frank and honest in a nice way about where things are at and kind of what you expect. And I think from the people that work with me and kind of around me, they've kind of grown to respect that.
Yeah. One of the things I've sort of noticed about your leadership style and appreciated as well is it's kind of hard to explain, but it's sort of like you encourage people to their kind of particular strengths in terms of leadership. And in fact, it's kind of a no ego approach, because you'll actually let some of your team members lead certain aspects for you, or on different projects, or different meetings that might happen. Did that happen by accident, or was that a conscious decision where you've actually said, oh look, actually, I'll let Hilary lead this one, Regan this one, or whatever it might be? Is that
I think just working through the years, it's always quite easy to manage, or if you're embedded in a team and you're kind of there beside them when they're doing something, actually make sure it gets done.
Yeah.
I think the key difference is being able to step out of the room and the same outcomes happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to me, and I think any true leader should only be successful when they can go away or disappear, whether it's on holiday or they've moved on to another role, and everything else keeps on going in the background.
Yeah.
If you need to be there constantly, then I think you probably need to look at your style and learn how to trust people to get on and do things and make their own decisions.
Yeah, that's it. I think it is trust, actually.
And
thank you.
And I think from a CDO's perspective, well, my own perspective is, we're not there to be the ultimate expert in every single topic. We're more there to have a broad understanding end to end of how the cogs and pieces work, but kind of effectively be like a drone pilot. So we're we're up at a certain altitude and we're looking back and we're looking forward and trying to make sure that all the pieces are happily working together and identify potential issues before they come up. And, hopefully you can stay at that altitude and keep an eye on things and kind of provide advice around where the next direction is to go. But occasionally you obviously need to come down into the field and, help out as required. But if you're living down there all the time, you're going to lose that broader perspective.
Yes, yeah. I like that you've advanced the language there from helicopter view to drone pilot. That's probably quite current, actually, isn't it? And speaking of kind of technology and innovation, obviously tech and innovation is something we do quite a bit of at Kordia, to stay ahead of where our customers are heading. But it can be quite challenging and exciting. What are some of the experiences you've had of tech or innovation and kind of the upsides and downsides?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, as I said, when I was a kid, I liked to build things, break them, sometimes hopefully successfully put them back together again. Wasn't always the case, but innovation is kind of the same, right? You've got to have a passion for kind of wanting to see what's next. What can I pull together to make a better outcome? And sometimes it doesn't have to be big, bold steps. Innovation can be simply just stopping doing something that's not actually adding any real value to what you're doing. Or it could be just subtly making a change to an existing product or solution, or it can be to the absolute extreme of creating something brand new. And I think all tech people are passionate about innovation and trying new things. I think it's always difficult to find the balance between when you've got an idea or a bold option you can take and whether you should take it or not, because there's so many things happening in the world and opportunities that we have that it becomes quite easy to become so overwhelmed with the amount of things you should actually be playing with or trialing or innovating in, that you end up losing perspective, or you never release anything to market or add any value back to your company or your customers. And so, I think it's just for experience of learning how to make those judgment calls around kind of where you should put your effort in, and that you can't do everything. I think the other thing is around, fast failure. What is the minimum you need to do at each step to be able to progress that idea to a point where you can make the next decision, as opposed to spend a whole lot of time on it. And, don't be afraid to call your baby ugly, I think, is, it's always a bit difficult when you've put your heart and soul into what you're doing. And obviously you've got other team members involved as well. But, there's some times we have to say, well, actually, that's not going to work. We're not going to make any money on it. It's not commercially viable. Or, in some cases we've done some things and, the market wasn't ready. And so there's a timing problem there where, there's a bit of a lag before the market is ready, or due to technology changing, by the time the market is ready, the technology's changed and leapfrogged.
Yeah, that timing thing is a really interesting point. And I know that we've spoken about it before, just in relation to, like the security program and what you roll out and when and how fast you can do it. There's times you're trying to push forward quickly, but actually just the timing isn't right for whatever reasons. And so perhaps it takes longer, but actually the conditions are much better when you actually get to, to the point of rolling something out. So yeah, timing's quite a hard one to pick, because you never know if you are going fast enough or maybe, too slowly. That sometimes that has to just kind of play out a bit, doesn't it? To kind of understand whether the timing's right.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes you just got to learn as you go. And the other thing is involve your customers, because at the end of the day, they're the ones with the real use cases. You're working on hypothetical use cases for anything you do. They're the ones at the coalface that are going to leverage or not what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, that's true. In terms of technology and technology trends, keen to know what you think some of the hot trends are at the moment, or some of the things you might be looking at.
Yeah, I suppose it's all around the common themes, primarily delivered by COVID. I'm sure most CDOs will admit now COVID's probably advanced technology within our enterprises faster than what we've been able to do in the last 10 years. And it's not just obviously our own company, Hilary, but all our customers and the New Zealand market and globally. There's been a massive step change with companies now adopting remote working, flexible hours, moving services to the cloud, modern workplace, use of Teams and Zoom and everything like that. And, so you've got all those macro kind of changes, but it's in behind that is kind of where you fit in to enable that. And a lot of those are the tools that you use, like Teams and other cloud calling platforms. Obviously, security is a big one because now we've got a distributed workforce. We're not behind the moat or the old perimeter type system. And so, as of anything, it's always a double-edged coin or sword. You've got people being able to do things more productive, but it's now created more risk. And so, there's a lot of those solutions we're working on around secure access service edge, digital migration into the cloud, because obviously having the flexibility of having your systems in SaaS products or, platform as a service is going to be a lot more flexible, easier to support. And I think putting aside the trends, it's more around just companies or businesses recognizing what is their actual core business, and then going, do we have the strong partners in the background to enable that? Because if your prime business is agriculture export, you don't need to be vertically integrated and do everything yourself. You're better off bringing in specialists to help you automate your business and better engage with your customers.
That's true.
And I think so. There's also a risk that you've got vendors getting closer to end customers, and everyone's getting bombarded with hot trends and multiple solutions for the same trend or use case, which I think can create a lot of confusion as well for people. So it's a bit of a kind of delicate balancing act with what's going on at the moment.
Absolutely. And in fact, some of those things you're talking about, they've actually been around for a while, like, even, basic things like modern workplace. But I think for an organization to actually really embrace that and kind of change their behavior and get on board, that has been a much slower kind of pace. So it's using a lot of the things that are already existing, but like you say, changing the business model behind how things are done or the behaviors of staff so that they're getting the most out of what those tools can provide. Because often there's so many features, but you've got to kind of keep up with.
Yeah, and that's why I think. Yeah, and that's why I think you've got to be aware of kind of what's happening. Otherwise, you live in a bubble or you've got your head in the sand. But you need to start with focusing is what is our business actually trying to achieve, and how do we create better employee engagement and transact with our customers, or make it easier for our customers to transact with us, and then kind of work back from there. Because I think as a tech industry, we constantly try to overcomplicate things. Whereas in fact, for a lot of businesses, there's actually some really quick, easy wins they can get to actually improve their business. That doesn't require a whole lot of change and investment.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Following along that whole kind of digital kind of behaviors kind of theme now. So, Aaron, look, I know that you like to give your opinion on social media. You're often quite candid out there on social media as well. So, yeah, what do you think of the role of social media in business and in our lives? What's your view?
Yeah, I think with anything, it can be a good or an evil. I've made the decision way back that basically, for LinkedIn and Twitter, they would be primarily business focused accounts, and I wouldn't use them for any kind of personal transactions. And obviously, Facebook and Instagram is from my friends and family. So, from my perspective, I'm not sure of others, but I keep that all very separate. And I think that kind of helps that you don't accidentally kind of step over the line with a personal opinion and into a professional network or something else gets linked to you. There has been, I suppose, times in the past where I've shared what I thought was just a perspective, but obviously took on a life of its own. So, as with anything in life, you learn from that. And I think, going forward, those professional networks are good. I'm probably more of a fan of using LinkedIn than I think Twitter to me is a bit of a cesspit of, various people's ideas that kind of drown out kind of what other people are trying to communicate. From LinkedIn perspective, I think it's a really good platform to basically build connections. And I think importantly for myself is share the successes that Kordia is having and our customer stories, because I don't know about you, but I want to shout those from the roof and make sure everyone knows about them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you're right about those different platforms. They do all have their different kind of personalities. LinkedIn, like you say, very business-like and professional. Twitter, a bit more like a town crier kind of situation.
Yeah.
And then, Facebook and Instagram, which is where people often are totally there to, catch up with friends or see what friends and family are up to. So I think that's probably quite a common split in terms of how people use those different platforms.
Yeah.
And wow. So just acquired base 2. And then what else are you or Kordia looking forward to? What's coming up?
Well, I suppose, it's kind of business day one for having base 2 in the family. So, we're really keen to get across their products and services and how we can leverage those across our broader customer base. We only acquired Emerge just over 12 months ago, which seems like a long time, but we're still looking to continue to grow the growth that they've got there, and they've got some brilliant case studies there and kind of cloud transformation successes for their customers, and then we've got obviously a lot of work still going into cyber, which is, as you'd be aware in your role, Hilary, a constant area of concern for New Zealand businesses, as it should be. And, it's a fast-growing area for ourselves, and we love helping our customers out and keeping them safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And so as we're kind of finishing up, Aaron, are there any kind of final words or calls to action for the audience?
I think the two from me is, be optimistic, but pragmatic. So, it's just find that balance of always looking forward into the future, but, working out how you get there in a pragmatic way. And I think back to your intuition, because I think in business, and we see it quite often, people know in the back of their heads what's going to work, which way people should go, but quite often we kind of question ourselves, even though when you step forward and then look back, you find out that the original thought you had for a couple of minutes was actually what was needed.
The right one.
And it was the right one. It's the same as if you're working on a project, how many times have, tech people worked out what's involved to make something happen, how many hours it's going to take, what kind of investment's required, and they've got the right people together on a whiteboard for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then the next step is detailed analysis and financial modelling, and that can take days and weeks, etc. And then you look back and you're within 5-10% of what was created in that first tiny meeting anyway.
That's so true. Yeah. Trusting your instinct is really important. I think it's going to be more important as we kind of, go into the future, because in some ways it's something that we're almost taught not to trust too much. But I think it is really important to really kind of trust that gut. So, yeah.
And we employ smart, capable people, so we need to back them.
Very true. Very true. Thanks, Aaron. Thank you so much for coming on the show. An absolute pleasure to have you on. It's really appreciated. So thanks a lot.
Cheers. Bye all.